gotta go potty.
Hello and welcome back to the Darkling Chronicles. Now this is the channel where I spill the ghost tea. You send me your amazing, creepy stories and we all just enjoy them together as a collective group of weirdos, and I'm here for it. Now if you love ghost stories and you have TikTok, go and give me a follow at the Darkling Chronicles. I'd really appreciate the support. And if you do have a ghost story, or you've had a time slip, or you've had a weird dream visitation, or maybe even a night terror that you cannot explain, I would love to talk to you about it. You can email me, thedarklingchronicles25@gmail.com, or you can go on my TikTok page, hit message, and you can contact me that way. Now tonight is windy outside. It's a grey, eerie sky. There are bangs coming from outside the flat that aren't usual, and it's all very creepy. I'm home alone, so I have decided for some reason to read you some ghost stories. Now, if you're like me, which you probably are, you have come and found this while you're doing some mundane activity, possibly working, folding your clothes, cleaning your room, tidying up, because you want to be entertained by a bloody good ghost story. And for me, there's no better way to do that kind of stuff than to listen to a ghost story or someone else's creepy experience. It just seems right. So I really hope you enjoy tonight's stories that I have for you. And this first one is called The Man in the Bonnet, and it's been sent to me by a TikTok follower called Mrs. Z. For some reason I didn't ask her name. I don't know why. We had a full-on conversation and not once did I ask this lady her name. But this is her story. When I was about 3 or 4 years old, I had an experience that terrified my dad. I was playing in my room when I heard someone call my name. Curious, I stepped into the hallway and looked towards the front door of our flat. Standing there was a man wearing a bonnet. She's put in brackets here, a flat cap. And a little boy who looked about a year younger than me. I don't remember exactly what they said, but I do remember them telling me they were cold and asking me to put the fire on. Without thinking, I ran into the living room and tried to turn on the fireplace. My dad caught me and scolded me. Fireplaces weren't something I was allowed to touch. Confused, I told him, "The man in the bonnet and the boy are cold. I have to put the fire on." My dad was freaked out. As soon as my mum got home, he told her everything. She sat me down and asked me to describe the man. After some thought, she pulled out an old photo album and asked if I saw him in any of the pictures. I pointed straight at one of them. "That's him. That's the man in the bonnet," I said. My mum went pale because the man I had seen was her dad. He had passed away 6 or 7 years before I was born. After that, my mum told me to come and get her if I ever saw them again. A few days later, I ran excitedly into the living room. "They're back!" She followed me to the hallway. But just before we turned the corner to the front door, I stopped. Oh, they left. She was disappointed she hadn't seen or heard them herself, but she always reminded me to tell her if they returned. I never saw them again, but I have heard them say my name over the years. At first, no one could figure out who the little boy was. But one night, my mum went to a psychic event and was told that the baby she had lost was still with her, and that we could both hear him calling to us when the house was quiet. That explained why we would sometimes hear our names being called and assume it was each other, only to find out no one had spoken. That's when my mum put the pieces together. The little boy I had seen that day wasn't just anyone. He was the brother I never got to meet. It's such a cool story, this, because I hear a lot, and I've had firsthand my cousin's daughter say that she had seen my great uncle Ron, and she'd never met him, and she pointed at a picture too of him, and it just confirmed to us that actually he'd been to visit her and played in her room with her. He would have absolutely adored her if he was alive, so it doesn't surprise me that he's come back to make sure the kids are okay. But this is the same thing. It's incredible that she was able to see her granddad, able to see her brother that she never got to meet. I'm not sure how I would feel about them calling my name. My next story comes from Shannon, who sent me this story via TikTok. And she says, "Hi, so my ex-boyfriend used to tell me that he was possessed by the devil. I would always laugh it off thinking, yeah mate, you need to take your meds. But one night, I was staying at his place, and I woke up in the early hours of the morning to see him stood in the doorway of the bedroom, staring at me. I swear I saw his eyes flash red for a split second. The next night, I was in the bedroom getting my things together to go home. He and his mate were in the bedroom over the other side of the room, waiting for me so they could take me home. When all of a sudden, out of the corner of my eye, I saw 3 black figures coming towards me, 2 on the left and 1 on the right. I was inconsolably screaming, legged it out the room, out of the house, and never went back. We split up shortly after, and nothing of that nature has ever happened to me since, thankfully. I never ever want to experience anything like that again. Thinking about it still terrifies me to this day, and it was 12 years ago now. I don't know whether I was having some sort of mental breakdown, psychosis, or whether the things that had happened were genuinely him. Like I said, he was convinced he was possessed by the devil. Lots of things happened during that relationship, like light switches coming on and off randomly, and the fire alarm going off in the early hours of the morning. But the eyes flashing red and black figures coming at me was the last straw. Holy Mother of God. Shannon, this is it's such a scary story. And I told it on my TikTok a little while ago, but it actually is one that I think about every now and then. I definitely would not ever date anyone like this. If someone told me they were possessed by the devil, that would be a massive red flag. Not that I obviously need to date, because I'm in a relationship, but this would be the end of that for me. It would be terrifying. I also would like to know if the 2 lads in the room saw these 3 figures coming towards her, because they're there too. They must have seen something. And I wonder if her boyfriend got a kick out of that, if he was saying he was possessed by the devil. There's some weird stuff going on there. There's some freaky shit that, to be honest with you, I don't think any of us want to really be part of. But waking up and seeing him stood in the doorway, staring at her, with a flash of red eyes. Let that reality sink in for a second. That's just too terrifying for words. I can't even put it into words. I just wonder how he's got on in life. I really hope he's changed his beliefs. Let's hope that he's just reformed and he's found God or something. I wonder if someone actually said that they were satanic, they worship the devil, and they did a ritual, and they could actually see these creatures, these bad creatures in the room with them. Because they probably move objects, they probably know they're there. But if they could see those creatures in the room with them, my God, would they shit themselves and run 10 miles? That's my thought anyway. Now this next story comes from Claire, and Claire sent me this story a little while ago now. She sent me a couple of others which I will share on this podcast at some point. But this ghost story, if you want to find it on my TikTok, is called Round the Clock Care. And Claire starts by saying, "My grandma passed away 20 years ago. She was 96. At the time, she needed round-the-clock care, and my dad was her primary carer. My uncle used to live with her too, until he passed away a few years earlier. so when he died, my dad took over her care. One weekend, I went to give my dad a break and stayed over. She had a little doorbell next to her bed to call for help in the night if she needed anything. I was sleeping in my uncle's old room. I woke up in the middle of the night to a heavy scratch down the back of my neck. It startled me. I jumped out of bed, heart racing. I ran into my grandma's room and found her halfway out the bed, hands bracing on the floor, trying not to fall. She looked at me and said, "Help me." I rushed over and lifted her head back in. I said, "Why didn't you ring your bell, Grandma?" She said, "I tried, but I lost my balance." To this day, I know 100% it was my uncle who scratched my neck to wake me up. A week later, my cousin, his daughter, rang me out of the blue. She said she'd been woken up in the night by a sharp scratch down the back of her neck. She was convinced it was her dad. She'd leapt up only to find her son sleepwalking, about to fall down the stairs. I hadn't told her about what happened the week before. It just didn't feel right at the time, like, oh yeah, same thing happened to me. It would have sounded flippant. I just said, I believe you. I believe it was your dad, 100%. How humble is that? That's so lovely of Claire, just to allow her cousin, obviously his daughter, to just have that moment, knowing it was her dad that came and helped her wake up to help her son. This uncle sounds like a hero, to be quite honest with you. A really caring, lovely person who is still looking out for people that he loves in death. It really warms my heart to know that although we cannot see them, that they really are here. And I have to remember that when people I love pass. It's so difficult, isn't it? Because the heartbreak and the grief is beyond any pain that you can really experience, and it's just the journey of healing again, depending obviously on the person who passed and the level of suffering that causes you. It's just such a personal journey, and I just think that to know that they are there is comfort in that, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think that there are spirits that can take advantage of your pain and maybe start pretending that they are the person who's passed, but I think things start to feel very wrong quite quickly. But actually, the good is here too, and these signs are beautiful, and it's really lovely to experience them when the grief's not so thick, and maybe you're able to acknowledge the sign and accept it, that that's a message from them letting you know they're okay. Because I know that when you're in the thick of the grief, sometimes it's really hard to actually see the message, accept it, because you push it away, because all you want is for that person to be alive and healthy and well, and the unjustness of it and the unfairness of it is obviously too big for that in that moment for you to actually move past it. It sounds really cheesy, but just outside my work there's a park, and I've watched through the seasons now, and my favourite is when the leaves start to come back onto the trees and you can walk down and they're just blowing around, and you just feel this connection because there's so many trees down there, and it's like, in some way, like, obviously I've got a good imagination, but it's like they're all just talking to each other and me, and I just feel like there's something in that, and I feel like that's where our spirits live. That's where the people who have passed are. They're in all the beautiful things, like the sunrise, the sunset, the trees, the leaves, you know, the flowers in the garden. Like, it feels like if the good is going to live anywhere in this world, it's going to live in the beauty, and I can't help but see it everywhere I go. And I know sometimes that doesn't correlate to the pain that you feel, but trying to remember that they are here, trying to accept those messages even when your heart is broken. I just think there's a really incredible comfort in that. And I'm not sure why I'm waffling on, obviously. I've gone on a tangent now. Very sorry about this. But this is why I started this podcast, because on my TikTok it's really hard to express how I feel about certain things in 3 minutes for a video. And I think it's really nice actually trying to understand someone else's thoughts and mind and processes. And if you resonate with that, you know, it's nice that you can stay in and listen to more stuff like that. But yeah, this uncle, what an incredible guy to look after his mum, to look after his grandson, and to make sure the family are okay. You couldn't really ask for more, could you, from someone who's passed away? Lovely story. Thank you so much for sending that, Claire. That's all the ghost tea I have for you tonight. But what I will say is my commitment to you and this page is to do a ghost story every weeknight on my TikTok page, and to do a podcast every Friday, just like this one, for you to enjoy ghost stories. All I ask in return is that you just follow the pages, really. I'm so grateful that you're here and that you're listening, and that's all I have time for, like I said. So take care of yourself. Make sure you do a bit of self-care and look after yourself, because it's really important. Even though you're here for ghost stories, I care about you. You need to care about yourself. You are important. You matter in this world. Hold your head high. Go walk around like your shit don't stink. But don't be arrogant. Make sure you're still humble. And I will see you, or speak to you, should I say, in the next episode. Take care.